Hello, CS 4900. We are group AftBurnedOut. I am Tim.
I'm Charlie.
Jesse.
I'm Michael.
And we did Pachinko. So our original plan for Pachinko, we had a couple things. One was PhysX. Pachinko is a game of a ball falling from the top, hitting a lot of pegs, and then landing into a array of buckets underneath that have different scores. So obviously, because of that, PhysX is a big one on our part, and that was assigned to Michael. Um, and we wanted to make sure that all of our objects and borders were interactable and actually had collision. Another thing,
And they do.
and they do, yeah. Another thing was Erklang. We wanted to have a background music along with sound effects and objects. We wanted to bring in our own custom objects, so we didn't have to reuse stuff from the shared multimedia. Now, overall, we end up sticking really closely to our original goals. So in PhysX, all objects are interactable and have bounds and collision. Varying scenes for those objects exist for the different boards, and handling both deletion of our world object and PhysX components simultaneously. Erklang, we have background music, but one of the things that we didn't get to achieve was individual sound effects for hitting pegs / scoring. Objects, we have custom objects and textures. However, there are some things, really one thing mainly, that we ended up porting over other than skyboxes, which are the cylinders that we use for our pegs. Through our testing of the original boards, it just became a lot to set those up, and we didn't want to switch those out and mess things up. Some of the things we would have liked to have done, the sound of balls hitting pegs, like we said before, it's a big one. We wanted a camera view so that when you dropped a ball, you would follow its perspective all the way down to the bucket, and a less random way of choosing where the ball drops. Currently, as it is, the width of the board, the ball will drop in any random location above that. Not like height above that, but like width, so it doesn't necessarily always start in the middle. But in the real Pachinko game, most of the time you choose where you want to drop your ball. So for this demo, we are going to switch over to Michael, somewhere around here. No.
Oh,
Oh, okay, there it was.
yeah.
So, Michael, if you want to reset to the hub.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and kind of spin around a little bit. All right, yeah. So this is our hub world. It's just a starting point for us. And from here, you can see in the top left-hand side, we have all of our hotkey commands. And the right side, we have score. You have three selections: an easy board, a medium board, and a hard board. You press space to spawn a ball. You hit E to erase that ball, and you hit R to go back to the hub. So go ahead and choose one of the board states, Michael.
All right.
Okay, so I believe this is the easy board. Here we have the skybox changing along with our board loading in with the custom amount of the easy amount of pegs and slots. You'll notice here at the bottom, either side 0, 2, and 4 in the middle. So we'll go ahead and hit space to spawn a ball. As you can see, it falls all the way down. And once the object is below the threshold and has reached a PhysX sleeping position, it will be removed and the score will be counted. So we got 2, and this one will be up to 4. Let's see if... Okay. All right.
Darn.
So in this circumstances, because the cylinders and the balls are polygons, it is actually possible for them to get stuck, which is why things such as the E to erase the ball are necessary. Michael hits 2. Even though there are 2 4s on this one, he is trying his hardest not to get them. Here we have 0. All right, one more try. Get a 4.
Try my best.
And nothing. All right, so from here, we'll reset back to the hub world, and we'll go to the next board. So on this, first things you'll notice, more pegs. It's a larger board, and at the bottom you'll see the outsides are actually -5, followed by 0, 5, 15, and the jackpot is 30. So Michael did his best and hit 0. Oh, ooh, and
Nope,
we hit
5
5.
this time.
5 this time.
Oh,
And
Just
negative
negative.
5. There have been okay, positive. All right, let's reset and give them the hardest one. Okay, as you can see, even larger, more pegs. The outside we have negative 20 followed by 0, 10, 20, 10, negative 10s surrounding the 60. Now, funny story, this originally was not, it was our hardest board, but we didn't necessarily have the hardest values assigned to the bottom. So it was actually very easy to score points on this one. And here we see Michael going to positive 10 from the negative 10 he was at, and right back to negative 10. And one more. So you can only drop one ball at a time. There was a version of this build where we had as many, you could hold down spacebar or one at the time, and it would just spawn as many balls as you could. And interesting enough, physics actually held up pretty well, and we tried very hard to fill up an entire board of balls, and I think we almost achieved that. And Michael was very terrible at hitting 60. No winners.
don't gamble.
Don't gamble. Yeah. All right. I think that's good for the demo, and we will switch back here to the remaining 2 slides. So, clever bits, fun things that we found hacky or nice ways to get around things. So, I think in one of the first times when it wasn't mandatory, found it a good way to use integer division to determine the array index of our values. So, our spacing of our board and our buckets at the bottom actually made it so that if we did the y value that was assigned to them on a scale, uh, once we got the y value when the ball was below a certain threshold, and we knew where it was, we could use integer division to find exactly what value in the array that was. So that was a little interesting things. Another thing was exactly how we did that. So the z coordinate, uh, we mixed checking that. So once it hit a certain level below, which would be like towards where the buckets were. Then Michael actually figured out we could use the rigid dynamic actor to check to see when the ball is sleeping. That would be like when it stops moving and physics doesn't really care about it, right? Um, and we would update the score at that point and then delete the ball. That way, there's no mixing up. Hey, does the ball still have velocity? What's going on? Another thing we were pretty clever about were stuff like containing the board, modularizing it so that we have the 3 different selected ones, being able to spawn it on a key press, and also being able to delete it. Another thing that I really loved was the back plane that you saw that was wood is actually also supported by 2 planes to the left, to either side of it, and a front part that are all transparent. So the ball actually has no way of escaping. And full-on reflections. Pachinko is a fun game. It really was, but it's gambling. It really is. Being able to play without the cost of money and seeing our score, it was very easy to see the distribution of the balls when we allowed more at the time in the build that we allowed more than one time. We were easily able to see the inverse of the bell curve, which is the middle being the most sparse and the outsides being very, very heavily weighted. This means that, yeah, the jackpot middle is very, very not visited very often. And our dynamic creation of objects on the board states, objects on varied board states, along with our scaling of our objects, such as our balls, pegs, buckets. And with that, we will say goodbye.